audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur. Oh!
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Coupe Stanley pour les Canadiens. Le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs!
And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida Tibi. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro on this Thursday, November 21. Thank you to everyone who is watching right now on YouTube Live and on Facebook Live. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, please do so, as we're constantly trying to grow the channel every day, and it's growing slowly but surely, which is the good news. Thank you very much for being there. We haven't had him on in a while. We get him on every now and then, backed by popular demand. He is a scouting guru, or so he says. No, a lot of people seem to think that. He's a legend on the Francophone side, soon to be a legend on the Anglophone side. He is the guy they call the Snake. I call him Uzerpent. Simo, the Snake, Boisvert. What's going on?
I'm doing fine, Tony.
Yeah.
And you?
Very, very well. I had Craig Button yesterday, TSN hockey analyst, their director of scouting. We talked about TSN's Core 4 under 24, where they identified every team in the National Hockey League, players 24 years of age or under, their core players as well as all their depth players. They gave them different grades. Craig called it a 4-3-2-1 grading system, where a 4 was kind of like a AAA player. The highest category, a 3 would be a AA player. The second highest category, a 2 would be an A player, the third highest category, and a 1 would be a B player, which is the fourth category. RDS earlier today put out a chart of the top 50 under 24 players in the National Hockey League. The Montreal Canadiens had several. We're going to talk about that just a little later on in the program. But first and foremost, Marc Bureau, who was a face-off guru back in the day, was back on the ice with the Canadiens players in Brossard earlier today, and he worked with every single player that has played center in the past, or play center and wing, but can play center, that can take draws, and one more player who has not played center and has not really taken too many draws in his career, Juraj Slafkovsky. Snake, when you see Marc Bureau working with the centerman and also working with Juraj Slafkovsky taking faceoffs today, do you make a big deal about it or no big deal? What do you think?
Well, there's two ways of seeing it. You can always say that, it's always good for as many forwards as possible to be good at faceoffs, because the centerman doesn't always take the faceoff for whatever reason. But you can also see it as, are they thinking of converting Slafkovsky to center? Because he is a big guy, and teams are always looking for that big centerman that's going to take you to the cup, a la Barkov, Kopitar, etc. So who knows? But I think, first and foremost, I think it's good for all forwards to work on that aspect of the game. Because I remember Matt Bureau, when I worked for the Cape Breton Eagles back in the early 2010s, he was our face-off coach. And he would work with, most of the forwards on the team for that exact reason.
All right. So I think you're right. And I'm going to add something to it. You're right. It could be a couple of things. It could be one, for whatever reason, they want Slafkovsky to take a face-off, one of which could be that the centerman got kicked out of the circle. That could be number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, is it possible that Juraj Slafkovsky at one point will be tried out as a centerman? Number three, is it possible that they're preparing a backup plan for Kirby Dach, who hasn't yet worked out as that big centerman within the Montreal Canadiens organization? I think we can add that to the mix.
Yeah, because you don't know who they're going to draft in 2025. If they draft a centerman, then I think they're fine. But if they don't, that means that if Dach doesn't play center, it means that the next in line eventually, but not next year, but eventually would be Michael Hage. So the 1-2 punch at center would be Suzuki and Michael Hage. Is that what the Habs want down the line? Who knows?
We're still very far away, of course, from the NHL Amateur Draft 2025. But I know you've given a lot of admiration to the defenseman Schaefer. So I have to ask you today on November 21st. Let's just say the Montreal Canadiens draft and Schaefer's available.
Yeah.
And the centerman Misa's available.
Yeah.
If you're the director of scouting, who are you drafting?
Oh, I take Schaefer. Because I think he's a superior player, regardless of position. I like Michael Misa, but to me, is not Michael Misa is not in the same category as, let's say, a James Higgins. If you had asked me if you have Schaefer or Higgins available, who do you take? Ooh, that would require me more, viewings and thinking and analysis. But Schaefer versus Misa, Schaefer all the way.
All right, fantastic stuff. Speaking of Kirby Dach, he knew that it was going to take a while, and so he's not surprised that it has taken a while for him to take off. Let's hear from him. He had a chance to speak with members of the media earlier today after practice.
Yeah, no, I knew it was going to take time, but it's how things happen. You just kind of got to roll with the punches and work through it. I don't think there's a magic potion or a magic pill or something that I can take that's just going to flip a switch. It's going to come from me working on the details and making sure I'm doing everything right in the ice and being in the right spots for that or switch to finally flip.
Wow, you hear that, you think what?
Well, I'm not sure this guy is a centerman with the Habs for the future. I really don't think he is. I mean, a top two centerman.
He hasn't proven it yet.
No.
So far, he's shown me that he's more comfortable on the wing.
He's already 23, I knew he was injured. I know he's not old or anything, but he's already 23. And usually at the age of 23, if you take Nick Suzuki, well, at age 23, Nick Suzuki was pretty established. And most of the top centermen, most of top 6 centermen in the league are established at that age. Most of them.
We are also 2 months away from his 24th birthday.
Yeah. But it's his age 23 season, let's call it. But yeah, he's 24 very soon, of course.
Yeah, he doesn't sound like he's a very confident player right now, which doesn't surprise me, obviously, because he's not playing like he's a very confident player. He talked about finding his stride. Let's hear again from Kirby Dach.
Kind of found our stride over the last few weeks here in the way we want to play and how we want to win games and be able to play in tight games and not just in shootouts or where we need to score 7 or 8 goals, but we can defend as well. And I think that's important for our group to learn now and to go through those lessons early on instead of learning them later in the year. And hopefully it's only going to project us upwards. And at the same time, we got to find a way to keep that same energy, but not to overextend that and get too overexcited and just kind of be even keel and come to each game with the same mindset.
He sounds very even keel. He sounds very relaxed.
Yeah, which is fine. But I think the thing with Dach, and this is something I can say about pretty much all the Canadiens players on the roster now. All of them need to basically take a step down in the hierarchy of the team for them to be in the appropriate chair, let's call it. I think a little bit too much is expected of all these guys, whether it be Suzuki, whether it be Dach, whether it be Caulfield or Newhook. Once they find their spot on the roster, the Habs are going to be much stronger, and we're not going to be as harsh on these players. But as long as you expect Dach to be a star, then that's the problem. But if you have like Demidov coming in, if you have Michael Hage, you have another pick in 2025, then all these guys can finally move down a couple of notches. And that's when the Habs at that point, have a chance to become a very, very strong team.
Very curious what your opinion was of Kirby Dach when he was drafted third overall.
Yeah. I had him in my top 10, but I would say it was closer to 10 than to 3. Yeah, I was surprised. Well, top 10 is good. I mean,
I understand that, of course.
I think I had him maybe 8 or 9. I remember I had Caulfield at number 10, so he wasn't number 10, but I had Dach ahead of Caulfield maybe at 8. And when he was chosen by Chicago, I was a little bit surprised that he went so high because I liked his physical presence on the ice. Who doesn't like a 6'4" centerman, That's for sure. But I thought, is this guy worthy of being picked in the top 3? I didn't see the offensive potential that is usually linked to being a top 3 pick. And I mean usually, because some of them don't. Look at Kotkaniemi, but, and there are others who were picked in the top 3 who would never, who didn't reach the meet the expectations. But I thought he was picked a little bit high. Yeah. I remember I preferred a guy like Dylan Cousins. Not saying that Dylan Cousins is a star or anything.
Yeah.
But I preferred a guy like Dylan Cousins if you're comparing apples with apples, because Cousins was also playing in the WHL at the time. And I preferred a guy like Matthew Boldy, who I think is a superior player right now in Minnesota.
Matthew Boldy's very good.
Yeah. So, but I like Dach. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I liked him, but there's a reason why the Hawks gave up on him at age 21 when they were actually doing a rebuild, and you need players in that age range. So basically what they did, they punted on Dach in order to get basically, a unicorn, which turned out to be Frank Nazar, who's doing well in the AHL, but we don't know if Frank Nazar is going to be more than a middle of the lineup player. So they gave up on Dach. And to me, I think it's good what the Habs did.
Yeah.
I wasn't a fan of Romanov, so I like the gamble, let's call it. But look, there's a reason why Chicago gave up on him, I'm sure.
I was just actually calculating Capo Caco's season. He was drafted second overall. For some, he's been a disappointment. But with 11 points thus far at 17 games, that calculates out to around the 53-point season, which would be the best season of his National Hockey League career, because his highest up until now was a 40-point season in 2022-2023. Reminding everyone that draft had Jack Hughes going number 1 to Jersey, Caco 2 to the Rangers, Kirby Dach 3 to Chicago, Bowen Byram 4 to Colorado, Alex Turcotte 5 to LA, Moritz Seider 6 to Detroit. That's a beauty. Dylan Cousins 7 to Buffalo, Broberg 8 to Edmonton, Zegras 9 to Anaheim, Podkolzin 10 to Vancouver, and then we're not going to get into every pick, but Boldy went 12 to Minnesota, Spencer Knight went 13 to Florida, and the Canadiens were able to grab Cole Caulfield with the 15th pick overall, and Alex Newhook, who went 16th to Colorado, is also a Montreal Canadian right now. By the way, you got to love Dallas taking Thomas Harley at 18th, eh? So it's a very solid pick.
Yeah, that was a solid pick. I mean, considering he was a good offensive defenseman, but I guess some people were concerned, about his defensive play, which is very often the case with young defensemen. But one thing that you mentioned, the 2019 draft, one thing that you remind me, and you mentioned Newhook. I had Newhook at number 6, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, I thought he skated well, and he played in the BCHL. And one, I don't know if it's a mistake, but it's a bias, I would say.
Yeah.
Only bias that I had, there was a period of time where I was always looking for the next Jamie Benn, let's call it. So these guys who would go to the BCHL, like Tyson Jost did.
Kyle Turris went to the BCHL. Remember that?
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
I think he played for the Burnaby Express. But everyone, you go to the BCHL. I mean, I understand why you took Newhook. He had over 100 points, but the BCHL is not a very strong league, let's be honest.
No, and it's going to get weaker with the new rules. But let's just say that at the time, I figured, okay, if this guy had played in the queue, because he was eligible to play in the queue, I was thinking this guy would probably be the top prospect in the queue. And I said, okay, in the BCHL, he's getting 100 points.
Yeah.
I figured, he skates well. I ranked him very high. So when the Habs acquired him from the Colorado Avalanche, I was thinking, why are they giving up on him? They just won the cup. Yeah. But you could tell that he wasn't top 6 material in Colorado. But I said, okay, you never know. Maybe in Colorado, it's a different situation. The Habs are rebuilding. So I really like the acquisition, especially that it only cost them the 31st and the 37th pick. So I thought taking a flyer on Newhook was a good acquisition. Look, I'm not criticizing Hughes for doing these things because with these guys who are very young, you never know. A change of scenery can really help. Once the guy has been to 3, 4, 5 teams, then I think it's kind of ridiculous not to give up on a first-round pick. But when the guy's only 20, 21, why not? If the cost is not too high. Okay. But it seems to me like Newhook is a third liner, and to me, Dach, middle of the roster wing. That's
speaking of ridiculous, I feel ridiculous wearing these dollar store glasses because I just misplaced my glasses. I can't find them right now. Oh my God, look how bad they look when I'm watching this. Oh my, what do I do? Stress my eyes and look? No, I have to wear them. The Sick Podcast brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. They are a top fleet employer. Also brought to you in part by Playground. If you're looking for the ultimate entertainment experience, Playground has it all. Gaming, poker, fine dining, live music, DJs, all unmatched customer service. Why go anywhere else? Just minutes from downtown Montreal, across the Mercier Bridge. Playground, your top destination for fun. And brought to you by Bittt Tibi. They launched their new Ultra Lager, refreshing, thirst-quenching beer. Perfect for cool fall days. Only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, 4% ABV per can. Available in a pack of 6 and 12 in grocery stores all around the province of Quebec. Ultra light and ultra refreshing. How do you feel about the way the Canadiens have been playing lately, having won 3 of their last 4, coming off of a big 3-0 win versus the Edmonton Oilers? How do you feel about it? I don't hear you. I don't know if it's me.
You.
There we go.
Yeah, it's you. You muted me.
I muted you, really? I didn't know I did that.
You did mute me, yeah. Okay. Look, it's not going to be a popular take, Tony, but since I'm kind of obsessed with the draft, and I realize that Canadiens are not going to make the playoffs, I don't know if it's good news because you want Matthew Schaefer on that team next year.
So you're one of those who's going to tell everyone to tank. You know what? It's going to be hard for me to criticize you because I'm of the belief that if you finish 10th last, 11th last, you're in no man's land.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to, like Brian Wild calls them outliers, right? We can give examples of Suzuki going 13 and Caulfield going 15, but if you take a look at the percentages in the National Hockey League, the probabilities of having a better player, the probabilities are if you draft a player 3rd, 4th, or 5th, and it's odd we're talking about this because we're talking about a Kirby Dach who was drafted 3rd, who hasn't really panned out all that much. But the probabilities are if you draft the top 5 pick, you're obviously going to have more success than drafting a 12th to 13, 14, 15 pick. That's just the way it is.
Basically, I understand that, people want to see wins. People want to the young guys to progress.
Yeah.
I get all this. But to me, an ideal game is the Habs, let's say, losing 4-3, and the 3 goals are scored by the future young core of a championship team. You don't want the Habs winning 5-4 with Brendan Gallagher scoring 3 goals and Josh Anderson scoring 2 goals.
Well, you know what? Every now and then I would want the Habs losing a game or winning a game, but scoring a lot of goals and seeing Yoel Armia score goals and Christian Dvorak score goals because they're in the final year of their contract, my friend. So who knows what you can get? Who knows what you can get?
Yeah, but look, they're not going to get a first-round pick for these guys.
No, they're not.
I think
I don't think they'll get it for David Savard either. A year ago, I thought they probably could have. Yeah. And they chose not to because he wasn't in the final year of his contract. I don't think right now, if you'd have to ask me right now, he's in the final year of his deal. Will David Savard get you a first-round pick? I don't think he will. No.
Well, I think a second-round pick is also good.
He'll get you a second. And Hutson was a second-round pick.
Yeah, PK Subban was a second-round pick. I mean, I know they might seem like outliers, like you're saying, but still, I like second-round picks because there's still 7 or 8 pretty decent players every year coming out of the second round, I would say. But once you start with third-round picks, you're really throwing darts. It's good to have a lot of them. You can pick a goalie like they did with Jacob Fowler. And so I'm okay with this, but obviously you're throwing darts. But first and second round picks, to me, they are gold.
All right, Kaden Gooley, why does he think the Canadians struggled at the beginning of the season? And they've done a lot better in 3 of their last 4 games. And notably, last game, well, he thinks he knows why. Let's hear from Kaden Gooley.
Too much. I think maybe we were giving teams a little bit too much respect, and we just weren't really putting enough pressure on their guys, and just kind of waiting for them. Instead of trying to make them make mistakes, just kind of waiting for them to make mistakes. And I mean, when you do that against the best players in the world, they're probably going to make you pay most of the time. So I think we're just more aggressive, more compact, more kind of on the same page, and it's been working for us. So I think now it's just about consistency, and we can do it for 3 games, and it doesn't matter. You got to do it the rest of 65 or however many we have left. So yeah.
More aggressive, more compact, more on the same page. To add to that, I don't think the defense give up the blue line as easily as they did. In the last couple of games, I've seen a pretty big improvement in that regard. And by the way, I think the Canadians in the last couple of games have actually given, on average, about 2 minutes of offensive puck possession time to the opposition, 2 minutes less. They've been able to shave 2 minutes less. And that's a big thing, because when the other team has the puck in your zone all the time and all that stuff, they lean on you, they wear you down, they end up getting shots on net. You're not attacking, you're not creating chances, you end up having less shots on net. It's a vicious circle, right?
Yeah, the first month of the season was really, really a joke in terms of the Habs being caught in their own zone, sometimes for like 2, 3, 4 minutes in a row. And the goalies weren't playing well either. So the thing is, first of all, yeah, they beat the Oilers, but other wins that they had were not against strong teams, if I'm not mistaken. And the thing is, when you always have to play a perfect game or almost perfect game to win, it's not really sustainable.
Yeah.
So I really doubt that this is going to last. I think they're going to have some good streaks. They're going to have some bad streaks. And in the end, at the beginning of the year, I thought they were going to get a top 7 pick in the draft. And I think this is going to be it. I know at some point they reached rock bottom. They were 32nd. So
yeah,
you can dream of Higgins or Schaefer. Realistically, I don't know if they're going to finish last. I
don't think so. I don't think so. I mean,
they're all bunched up. Nashville is really, really bad.
Yeah. Speaking of which, what an embarrassing moment last night. Did you see what happened with the Nashville Predators last night?
What happened, Tony?
So they were supposed to. Nashville starts the game. All right, and they start the game, with. Who was it again? It was, I'm going to bring up their line. I have it right here, as a matter of fact. So they start the game with Ryan O'Reilly, Philip Forsberg, and Gustav Nyquist. Okay? Philip Forsberg plays left wing on the first line. Steven Stamkos plays left wing on the second line. Philip Forsberg is number 9. Steven Stamkos is number 91. What do the Nashville Predators put on the game sheet for the starting lineup? They put Ryan O'Reilly with Gustav Nyquist and Steven Stamkos. They put 91 instead of 9. So someone filling out the game sheet, whether it was the coach or the assistant coach, made a mistake, because Forsberg's number is 9, not 91. But it was number 9, Forsberg, who was on the ice with his regular line mates, Ryan O'Reilly and Gustav Nyquist. So at the first puck stoppage, 43 seconds into the game, the referees assessed Nashville with a bench minor for an incorrect starting lineup.
Yeah, I think I saw something to that effect on Twitter, but I didn't pay.
Whoever filled out that game sheet,
it's the first time
the coach or the assistant. Like whether it's the coach or the assistant, you have one job. Yeah. One. It's to put your 3 forwards, your 2 defensemen, and your starting goalie on that game sheet as starters. You had one job. Nashville's a mess. You know that? And I got to tell you, look, I love Steven Stamkos. Everyone does. You know, I like Jonathan Marchessault. So we're talking about 2 Stanley Cup champions. We're talking about 2 very good playoff performers.
Yeah.
When you go out and you grab 2 players who are still very good players, and even though they put up stats last year, you know that the next year or 2 or 3, they should be on the decline, right? It's the line of physics. Not everyone is Alexander Ovechkin, correct?
Yeah.
You're taking a chance, and I think they got a little desperate.
Well, I don't like what Nashville did last summer, because when it happened, and for older viewers, it reminds me of the New York Rangers used to do about with Neil Smith as the GM about 25 years ago. They kept signing all these free agents during the summer, these 30-something guys, and they weren't making the playoffs. And to me, it was a spending spree that reminded me of what the Rangers used to do. And Nashville, you kind of wonder, they have some prospects. They have some good players, like Josi and Forsberg. So you're kind of wondering, what were they trying to do? Did they really think that by signing a couple of free agents to big contracts that they were going to be cup contenders? So who knows if they're going to climb up the standings? I mean, Habs fans probably hope they will, because then, it's a higher draft pick. But they're not really taking off, and it's an actual it's actually a disaster for Barry Trotz's new career as the team's GM. Speaking of which, you know what? Well, Barry Trotz came out and he started talking about, you know what? If this is the way they're going to be, well, guys are going to be moved. And I'm starting to wonder if the Nashville Predators probably weren't better off trying to get younger instead of trying to get older. And I understand, like, they had a couple of players later, like Forsberg and Roman Josi, and they probably thought, you know what, we owe it to these guys to try and win now because they haven't won here. But, not a good move. Not a good move. Bad team construction. Badly constructed roster, unfortunately. Yeah. And but now, how do you pedal back? I mean, no one's going to take Stamkos' contract. No one's going to take Marchessault's contract. No way. No. I know that he was threatening, we're going to do a rebuild or a reset or whatever they call it. But how do you backpedal? It'll be hard. Mind you, once upon a time, some people thought that Longo's contract wasn't going to be picked up either, and it was. I mean, but you're right. I mean, I think it'll be very, very tough to pick up those contracts. Who do you get in return? You're not going to get a top 15 pick for Steven Stamkos. That's for sure. Folks, who do you got? Do you have the Canadians or you have Vegas on Saturday night? Well, what you can do is you can check out Betway, because they're a leading global online betting and gaming brand. Follow your gut instinct. Go with Betway. Go on Betway.com or scan the QR code to join the action. Must be 18 years old and over and play responsibly. All right, okay. Yesterday I had Craig Button, TSN hockey analyst, our director of scouting. He took part in a little exercise, a little project, along with Chris Peters and along with Steve Dryden. What did they do? They took a look at the core 4 under 24. So 4 core players on a team under 24, and then took a look at the rest of their players on their team or within their organization under 24. And out of all the teams in the National Hockey League, who did they rank first? The Montreal Canadiens. Now, if I would have asked you who you would have ranked first before taking a look at their exercise, which team would you have ranked first? The Sharks. And number 2? The Ducks. And number 3? The Habs. All right. Good. Talk to me about the Sharks. Why the Sharks? And to me, after the top 3, in my book, there's a drop. Okay. So in my book, the Sharks, the Ducks, and the Habs have the top 3 rebuilds going on in the league right now. I told Craig yesterday I was shocked to see the Ducks at number 7 on their list. He explained it to me. He thought that they have a lot of quality, but there's other organizations that have more quantity. Yeah, I do get the argument, because the more prospects you have,
the more chances you have to hit.
The more chances you have, because they're not all going to pan out. You know, it's like in baseball. You have 10 good starting pitchers in the minors. If you have one or two who make it and become good, then you've made it. So I do understand that argument. However, you win with impact players. And to me, the Ducks have these impact players, just like the Habs do, just like the Sharks do. You want me to tell you about the Sharks? I think the Sharks, they have impact players and they have depth. Okay, because Quentin Musty is number 6 on that list.
And
I love Quentin Musty, and to be honest with you,
yeah, we know you love him.
Yeah, but if I had done the list, I would have had Quentin Musty at number 6 also.
He picked up 6 points. What was it, last week? Or
yeah, but he's 17 years old now. I mean, who cares?
Yeah.
But still.
9-2 game too, I think it was.
Yeah. So to me, the fact that Musty is number 6, it says a lot about how strong the Sharks system or whatever, young guns, it's loaded. As for the Habs, I think
pardon me, before you get to the Habs, they have Macklin Celebrini, who's a AAA player. They have Will Smith, who I think that they put as a AA player. Talk to me about some of the other prospects with San Jose and some of the prospects with the Anaheim Ducks, if you can, so that we can compare them with the Montreal Canadiens. We can do a little bit of an exercise. We can have a better understanding, because you have San Jose at 1, you have Anaheim at 2, and you have Montreal at 3.
Okay, well, they have Sam Dickinson at, and by the way, I agree with the order, basically, that they've.
Yeah, the grading. Yeah.
Well, the grading, Will Smith, I'm still a little bit, I'm not sure 100% about the AA grade, but anyway, we're just playing hairs here. I like Sam Dickinson, who I think can be a solid number 1 defenseman, not necessarily a Norris contender, but a strong number 1. They have the goalie of the future in Askarov, who's been playing very, very well in the American Hockey League since he came to America. And they have William Eklund, who's already established, who I think will be a good second-line player on a strong team. Like right now, he's playing on the first line, but I don't think that's really his spot. I think he's a second-line player. Then they have Musty.
Yeah.
And then you're throwing Ducks. We're talking about Chernyshov, who's playing in the OHL. Then we'll see. But I think they have a top 6 that is extremely, extremely strong.
And
Anaheim.
Leo Carlson.
A fantastic top 6. And the thing is and it's kind of interesting because I don't know if you notice, but Trevor Zegras was not on the list. This guy has really, really taken a big drop.
He's not on their list?
He's not. No, he's not on TSN's list.
Oh, wow.
Not even on TSN's list.
I didn't realize that.
Oh, yeah. They dropped him really, really, because this guy was considered, a AA player at least a couple of years ago. Now he's not even a B player. And I do agree with the guys, Peters and Dryden and Button. I watched the Ducks almost every game. And Trevor Zegras, he makes a nice play here and there. But to me, it's more the reputation that he had because he was the Michigan guy. And he doesn't bring much to the table. He's not strong physically. He doesn't win his puck battles. And he's skilled, but he's not highly skilled to the sense that it compensates for all this. So anyway, Zegras is not on the list, but let's consider him, for argument's sake, because he's still a decent top 9 player.
Yeah.
They have Leo Carlson as their top young guy. Leo Carlson, I've often compared to Matt Sundin in the sense that he's a tall centerman and he's very, very smooth. He's a smooth skater. He has great hands. He has great vision. I would like to see his production go up a little bit. I know he's young. I know he's just 20, but I would like to see his production a little bit better because I think he plays very well. But at some point, you got to score points. Then they have Cutter Gauthier, who I love. Cutter Gauthier was number 2 on my list after Slavkovsky in 2022. And then they have Mason McTavish, who is pretty good, but I don't think he has a very strong start to the season, but he's a very good centerman. And Beckett Seneca. I mean, come on, Beckett Seneca. A lot of people were surprised that he was chosen number 3.
Yeah.
But I was not. The guy was like, his progression last year was fantastic. And still with Oshawa, he went back to junior hockey this year.
How's he doing?
Oh, he's been terrific. I think he's going to be playing in Anaheim next year at age 19.
Wow.
And they have defenseman Pavel Mintyukov, drafted the same year as Slavkovsky at number 10,
yes.
who I think he's a very complete defenseman. And they have Olin Zellweger, who I feel is their puck mover. You know, he's really, really, as a defender, he's okay. But as a puck mover, I think he's an A or AA guy. And don't forget, they also have a couple of young defensemen. One of them who's playing regularly, Jackson Lacombe, who's very, very good.
Yeah.
And Tristan Luneau, who's playing in San Diego right now.
Of course.
And who should be a fixture on the Ducks blue line. So honestly, I
got to tell you, and I've thought this for a while, that Martin Madden Jr. is one of the top amateur scouts in the world, if not the best. And it's funny because you brought up Beckett Seneca, okay? A lot of people are going to have their eyes on Seneca and on Demidov over the next couple of years because, you know, the Canadians came out and they said the night of the draft that without a doubt, Ivan Demidov was, you know, their understanding was that Macklin Celebrini was going to go number 1. So, you know, they totally disregarded that. But Demidov was the guy on their list. So he was either number 1 on their list, but most likely number 2 on everyone's list, right? But he was their guy. And so when Anaheim took Seneca at number 3, even though you're not surprised that they did, and he really gained a lot of ground in the weeks leading up to the draft, some people said, I can't believe Martin Madden Jr. passed on Ivan Demidov at number 3. Some people said, I can't believe number 2 passed on Demidov. Some people said, I can't believe number 4 passed on Demidov. I can't wait to see Seneca and his evolution because if he doesn't pan out, and Demidov does, but I think Martin Madden Jr., his body of work, very strong. Very strong.
Look, I had Demidov right in front of Seneca on my list. So had I been Anaheim, I would have taken Demidov. But I can't criticize Anaheim for taking Seneca because I love Seneca. The teams that I'm criticizing, and especially one of them, is Columbus for passing on Demidov. This is absolutely ridiculous. Did Trevor Timmins have anything to do with this?
Listen, I don't know, but he's part of the scouting staff, so I imagine he did. I imagine he was influential in the signing, in the selection of Kaden Lindstrom.
This is terrible. I don't
know if he got final say in Columbus. I don't know. I believe he had final say in Montreal. I mean, Look, ultimately, you saw the video. I'm going to give you an example. When he looked at his scouts, Shane Churlo was one of them at the table, and Timmins said, "I say Caulfield." And the other guy said, yeah, okay, Caulfield. He looked at Marc Bergevin and he said, Caulfield, are you good with that? And Marc Bergevin said, yeah. So ultimately, Marc Bergevin has final say because he has to say yes or no. If Bergevin at that draft table would have said, no, I'm not comfortable with that and I want to go with this guy, Bergevin would have won. But as you know, GMs have their directors of amateur scouting in place. They have their scouts in place. They delegate, they go on their word because those are the scouts. Those have seen that player. Those are the guys that have seen that player more often than not. Most of the time, if not almost but most of the time, they will say to the scout, yeah, I'm good with what you're taking. I'm good because that scout has seen him a lot more, right? So there's no doubt that Trevor Timmins had his say on Kaden Lindstrom. I didn't like the fact that they had to, there were a lot of people that were concerned about Kaden Lindstrom's back.
Yeah. And as for Chicago, I'm okay with Lev Shunov, and he's been playing well in Rockford so far. But again, Chicago, when you look at the prospects and the roster, it's not like they're flooded with talent up front. They have good secondary players, veteran players right now, you know, Jason Dickinson and Taylor Hall and guys like that. But really, aside from Connor Bedard, there's not much in terms of youth, you know, and I don't understand why they passed on Demidov either. So, look, the Habs got
Speaking of Lindstrom, by the way, he had surgery yesterday.
Yeah.
He had surgery yesterday.
Yeah.
They say it's minor surgery, and he's expected to play this season after his rehab. But once again, every team wanted a medical report on Kaden Lindstrom. And obviously Columbus trusted the medical report, and they said, you know what, this guy's going to be fine. And this guy hasn't played a game. This guy he's been out. He's been having he's had a back injury since last season. He played his last regular season game when? It's almost going to be a year ago, then returned to the team in the playoffs. And then after that, he was out, hasn't played a regular season game this year. And now he has that back surgery. And he's going to have very minimal activity, they say, for about a month before coming back to play.
It's and they're crucial years in a player's development. But the question is, and I know it's a moot point, but had Columbus taken Demidov, would the Habs have taken Lindstrom? Who knows?
Yeah, mind you, the Columbus Blue Jackets are very optimistic. They say that
who cares?
They say that he was at 90%, okay? Yeah. But he couldn't get over that 90% hump. So the doctor said, if you want to get this guy at the 100%, we got to do the procedure. So they did the procedure. Hey, listen, we wish him well. I mean, the guy's quite the package. I mean, there's no doubt about that. All right, okay. So let's take a look at the Canadiens players that are in that top 10 list for TSN.
Yep.
Core 24, under 24. They have 10 players. I sent Daniello and Sammy the little picture of it. Here we go. Cole Caulfield has a AA grade. So does Ivan Demidov. Slavkovsky and Hutson, as well as Fowler and Caden Gooley, have an A grade. And a B grade goes out to Hage, Joshua Roy, Logan Mailloux, and David Reinbacher. Your thoughts on this list, what you agree with and what you disagree with?
Well, I think Demidov should be number one. I understand that there's a body of work in the NHL that Cole Caulfield has that, you know, Demidov doesn't have.
Yeah.
But still, when you make lists like that, do you base it on projection or you base it on what's been done so far? So in my book, Demidov should be number one. And I would have Slavkovsky at number two. Because, again, Caulfield is scoring a lot of goals. But eventually, who should be the better player? I would say it's Slavkovsky. So as for Lane Hutson, he's a very particular player.
I think Hudson's a AA player. I mean, look what he's doing.
Look, Tony, this guy, you know, I don't know how much you follow football, but
quite a bit.
You know what they call gadget players in the NFL?
Yes.
Yeah. And I see Hutson as a gadget player in the sense that he does things that, honestly, no one else does in the NHL right now. When he's in the opponent's zone, there is not one single guy who does what he does in the NHL. However, the rest of his game, especially in his own zone, he's not bad defensively, but let's face it, he is small. They don't play him on the PK, and you know they're not necessarily going to play him, you know, to protect the lead when there's 1 minute left. They're going to shelter him from the top line.
You think he's more of a specialty player and more of a player who does one thing really good, but struggles in other departments?
Well, I would say he does one thing exceptionally. He doesn't necessarily struggle in other departments, but I would say that he's more like an ingredient as part of a cake mix.
Perfect. I respect your opinion. I don't have to disagree with it because, look, I understand that he doesn't have the size or the strength to fight off opponents every now and then. I see it, and sometimes they go around them, and it's difficult. I get it. But I want you to tell me what characteristics he has that you think are very, very good. I want to hear this. Tell me.
I think it's basically is stick handling in the opponent's zone. I think this is absolutely exceptional.
No, his stick handling period is exceptional. Never mind.
Yeah, but I mean, but he's not the guy who's necessarily going to go end to end, a la Quinn Hughes or a la Makar. That's what I'm saying. He gets the puck out of the zone, but I can't say that he's exceptional because his skating is not as smooth.
Perfect.
As the other guys I mentioned.
So stick handling exceptional. What else?
As exceptional?
Yes.
I would say that's it. But
his vision is off the charts.
Yeah.
His vision is off the charts. His sense of anticipation is off the charts. His imagination and creativity is at another level on this team. As a matter of fact, he's on the other side of the street waiting for everyone to catch up, and he's like, "Hey guys, I'm over here."
Also says a lot about the state of the Habs right now. Because once the Habs get Demidov, once the Habs get another top pick in 2025, at some point, I'm not saying Hutson is going to be diluted, but I'm just saying that he's going
to be better. He's going to be better because they're going to add a player like Demidov who thinks the game like him. He'll be on the same page. They don't have enough guys who think the game like him. By the way,
true. But I'm saying that he won't stand out as much. That's what I'm saying. Right now, he stands out because we haven't had a player who's been creative like he is in the last 30 years.
Perfect. You just said it. So imagine he's standing out as a 20-year-old rookie defenseman of 5'9", 163, 164 pounds, rookie defenseman of the National Hockey League. Imagine how good he is. Hey, a friend of mine said, imagine this guy in 3 years. My cousin responded, imagine him in 3 months.
But I still think that he has to be used. He's not a jack of all trades. He has to be used in a very efficient way by his coach.
I don't know about that because look for example, okay? Look for example. His coach has him on the second wave of the power play. Okay? There's a lot of people that think that he could be very, very good on the power play. I think he's very good on the power play. We haven't even talked about that yet, but I think his ability to quarterback a power play is going to be excellent. I already think it's very good. Unfortunately, he's not getting that much of a chance. He gets 17, 18 minutes, sometimes over 20 minutes, 5-on-5. He's not exposed. Yeah, there's some. Look, he plays on a very average to bad team that spends a lot of time in their zone, that gets outshot 80% of the time.
Look at him play in his own zone. You can tell that, and I don't blame him with his the way he's built. He avoids contact. He loses puck battles.
He avoids contact because he's smart.
Yeah, but at some point when you're defending in your zone, you can't always avoid contact.
He doesn't have to battle. He uses his hockey sense, and he uses
I just think, Tony, that a lot of people...
If he battles, he's going to tire himself out.
I just think that a lot of fans, including yourself, are making him to be this Norris Trophy, some sort of power defenseman.
He's a fantastic player.
He's a gadget player. Okay, the New Orleans Saints, they have this quarterback, Taysom Hill, that they play sometimes. They give him all kinds of tricky plays and stuff. He's excellent at doing it. He's a weapon for the Saints. Once they give him the starting quarterback role, he's just an average player. And that's my point.
If he was a gadget player in the National Hockey League, he'd be a liability 5-on-5. He's not. He's the guy who creates the most offense of any defenseman on the team.
Yeah, but that says a lot also about the team. I think in Montreal, there's been so little happening in terms of like fun on the ice, except for a year of Kovalev and PK Subban, was pretty spectacular. Aside from that, in the last 3 years, there hasn't been much. So obviously you see a guy like Hutson and you're like, wow, we haven't seen this in a while. But if you look at other teams, if you watch other games, Tony, there's a lot of very, very there are star players out there that we haven't had in years.
I hear you. I think a lot of teams are starting to game plan around Lane Hutson. The other day, that game that they played in Minnesota, he went around a couple of guys like they weren't even there, had himself a great scoring chance. The other night against Edmonton, he was playing a game of takeaway from the other guys, a game of keep away. Knobloch was looking at, who is this guy? Where does this guy come from? I think he's catching a lot of look. He had offensive zone possession time superior to Makar and Hughes. He's an NHL rookie.
Tony, I'm waiting for two things. You know how we always say you can't pass a judgment on players before you have to wait 4 years, 5 years, whatever.
Yeah.
That goes for everybody.
I'll pass a judgment on him right away. The kid's fantastic.
Okay, well, there you go. And that's the thing. That's where I hit the wall when I talk to people. Whether it's you, whether it's Matthias, whether it's fans insulting me about Lane Hutson, can we wait until he can show he doesn't run out of gas? It's an 82-game season. He is a smallish player.
It would be normal if he runs out of gas. Leo Carlson's a fantastic player. They put him on a load management program last year.
Yeah, they did.
If the Canadians do the same thing with Lane Hutson, I got no problem.
That would be great.
If they play back-to-back on Tuesday, Wednesday, and they play back-to-back on Saturday, Sunday, and they want to give him one of the two in the back-to-back or one of the two in the other back-to-back, or they play at 3 and 4, and they give him the third game off, it would be smart.
That would be smart, Tony. But I'm saying before I pass a judgment on the player, I always wait a few years. You know, I don't get.
You want to know why they don't give him those nights off? He's too good. You want to know why they don't give him those nights off? He's too good. Marty St. Louis says, I need this guy in my lineup. He's too good.
I get it. But you want to see and that goes for any player. You want to see if a guy can sustain an 82-game season. He's never done it before, didn't play junior hockey. And second of all, very important, you want to see what a guy is going to do in the playoffs.
Yes.
That's very important also, but we're not going to see this.
Quinn Hughes won the Norris, but he wasn't. Quinn Hughes won the Norris, but he wasn't very effective in the playoffs. So I understand your point.
And you know what? Quinn Hughes is one of my favorite players.
I understand your point.
But I do realize that Quinn Hughes in the playoffs is not the man.
I understand that. This
kid's
kid's performance
2020 was good, you know, during the COVID season.
Yeah.
But last year he was, I would say, almost bad.
I understand you. I'll say this. Lane Hutson has performed top at every level. And when the chips are down and the pressure is mounting, he has always performed. I'm going to continue to bet on him. We're going to end it with this. Go to sickattire.com, by the way, to shop for your favorite Sick podcast. Tony Marinaro merchandise, of which I make absolutely no money from. But that's okay. I have a terrible agent. All right, okay. Now, RDS put up a chart, which is the chart of the top 50 of the core 4 under 24. Okay, the top 50. And let me put on these dollar store glasses. Jack Hughes is number 1. Connor Bedard is number 2. Macklin Celebrini is number 3. Stutzla is number 4. Matvei Michkov, look at that. Love that guy. He's number 7. Caulfield is 8. Demidov is 10. Lafreniere is 23. Slavkovsky is 25. Hutson is 27. Fowler is 40. And Kaden Gooley is 46. I have to say there's a couple of players on this list that surprised me a little bit as to where they are exactly. But in the top 50 list, the Montreal Canadiens have Caulfield, Demidov, Slavkovsky, Hutson, Fowler, and Gooley. 6 in the top 50. Not bad.
Yeah, I think they all deserve to be there. It's very hard to put, you know, you can do a top 5, a top 10. But if you had asked me to do a top 50, at some point, you know, you're going to put a guy 45, 46, 47. Who knows? I mean, it's very hard to do these lists. And, you know, I commend guys who do this because, and I know they get orders, you know, from the boss because people like lists and everything. But I hate that kind of exercise because it's very, very hard, especially that the players are not, they're hard to compare because some guys are 19, 18, 19, some guys are 23. But I think all the Habs on the list deserve to be there. Some of them may be higher. And, you know, it's...
I'm a little...
Top of the list, I would have... I know Jack Hughes has a track record, but at the top of the list, I would have Celebrini. But again, it's projection.
I got you. I'm a little bit surprised if we can bring up the list one more time. I'm a little bit surprised the Lafreniere is at 23rd. I was just checking out with his 14 points in 17 games. Yeah. He's on pace for a 68-point season.
Yeah,
I thought he would have had a better ranking than 23rd. I thought he would have had a better ranking than that. but that's okay.
Perhaps he could have been ranked more than 23rd, but Lafreniere is in his 5th season, so he's progressed in the last couple of years. But when is he going to reach his plateau in the sense that when are we going to be able to say Lafreniere is what he is? Because when he was drafted number 1, I remember I had Stutzlat number 1.
Yeah.
And they basically ran me out of town.
Who ran you out of town?
Well, people were going to run me out of town, you know, if they could have done it.
That's not nice.
No, it's not nice, but that's what it is. When you make predictions and you go against the flow, especially the guy was a French-Canadian player. And by the way, I had Lafreniere at number 2, so it's not like I didn't like him, but I had Stutzlat number 1. And to me, it's like, I always wondered at some point, Lafreniere, how good can he be? And at the time when he was ranked number 1, he wasn't considered in the same category as Connor McDavid, obviously not.
Yeah.
But a lot of people saw him as a future, maybe top 10, 15 scorer in the NHL.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's going to happen. And at first they were saying, well, he plays for the Rangers. He plays on the 3rd line. He doesn't get power play time. Yeah, I do get it. And last year he had a pretty good season. And he had a very good start this season. And it's kind of weird, but after he signed his big contract, you know.
I have a prediction for you. We'll see, because you talked about the prediction game. I'm going to give you one. Okay? We'll see what happens, all right? I might end up regretting this one. Next year, Alexis Lafreniere will be a point-per-game player. Next year.
Okay.
Let's see what happens. All right, okay.
I'm not saying he won't be, but okay.
Okay. David Reinbacher, by the way, unfortunately not on the list. We know he's out with an injury, but even if he didn't have that injury, I think it's safe to say he wouldn't be in the top 50 list, because Mayu spent some time and with the Rocket last year, this year, and he's not on that list. So I don't think Reinbacher would be on the list, correct?
I would have him.
You'd have him on the list? Yeah, top 50?
I would have him on the list, yeah. Top 50, good. Probably between 40 and 50, yeah.
Good. I'm looking.
Yeah, because you look, I like the guy, and I don't want to pass judgment on someone, you know, after a year or two. So usually I stick to my prediction at first. I monitor it, and then at some point I change my mind when I see that there's a big change. You know, like, for instance, I love Tyson Jost, you know, in 2016. I thought he was like going to be a 70-point player.
Yeah.
I waited. But at some point after 4 years, I realized that guy didn't have the foot speed. He wasn't dynamic enough.
Was he drafted 10th by Colorado?
Ever.
Was he drafted 10th by Colorado? Where was he drafted?
He was drafted 10th. I would have taken him 4th. And I remember I was wondering why the hell isn't this guy going top 5? And that was one of my BCHL mistakes, by the way. Yeah. But at some point, after 3-4 years, I looked at him, and I remember he had a hat trick in Colorado, and a lot of people texted me, and my friends were saying, "Hey, Jost, you know, he's back." And everything. I said, "No."
Yeah.
I said, "No." I go, "He doesn't have the foot speed. He's not dynamic enough." This is one of my worst predictions ever. And basically, I forgot about the player, and look who he is now. He's just bouncing between NHL and NHL.
Listen, if tonight was the NHL draft, you would have been my first pick, and that's why I had you on the Sick Podcast. I don't know if you have the brain speed to go head-to-head with me, but you definitely have the looks. There you have it. He is.
And I do have the legs, because remember, we're supposed to do a 50-meter run once you get better, Tony.
Yes, I heard that. And I had like 12 packs of M&Ms and 4 Kit Kats in the last couple of weeks. I don't think we're going to be running anytime soon. But you know what? Maybe, who knows? Maybe one day. Miracles do happen, they say, like the way they did in 1980. He is the guy they call the Snake. I call him Uzarpent. Simo, the Snake Boisvert. Merci beaucoup, mon chum. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye, Tony.
There you have it. All right, okay. Marinaro for a shutout with these dollar store glasses again. The Pole Montreal, PEAU, Montreal.com. Dr. Manish Khanna and his experts. They have the latest in cosmetic technologies for laser services, injections, fillers, body contouring, facial treatments. Check them out on Instagram at Pole Montreal and call them at 514-989-7328. And I'd love to give a beautiful shout out tonight to Terry and Costa and the entire gang and everyone over at Souvlaki Authentique. They treated us so well when Craig Button was in town and continue to treat us well. And I can't wait to get out there one more time to do another show or two from one of their locations. Family-operated Greek restaurants with 7 locations, Lachine, Boisbriand, Pierrefonds, just to name a few. They use fresh Quebec chicken, fresh Quebec pork, both hand-cut, marinated in-house. They call that marination. Their gyro is hand-stacked in-house, never frozen, no MSG in any of the recipes. Greek potatoes, not your yaya's Greek potatoes. These have a unique lemon sauce, and that's why I love them. And I hope you find the Sick Podcast to be a very unique podcast. Franiello and Sammy at Master Control will be back tomorrow, same time, same place. And by the way, don't forget, every Friday, I have a live Sick Podcast en français, in French, for our French-speaking viewers and listeners, and that goes at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So look out for that tomorrow. Special thanks once again for all of you for watching the Sick Podcast. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple. It's our way of feeling the love. Franiello and Sammy at Master Control. I'm Marinaro.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. Tibi, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.